AITA for canceling the wedding after my fiancée kissed another man and then called me dramatic? I am 32 years old, and my fiancée, Vivian, is 29. We had been together for 5 years. I proposed 18 months ago at a scenic lookout on a trail we used to hike. I splurged on the ring. She cried. She said yes, and we started planning our whole future. The wedding was 6 weeks away when everything went to hell. Everything was locked in. The venue was booked, and the invitations had been sent. Vivian's mother, Deborah, paid for everything, citing tradition and all that nonsense. Deborah had a way of being generous that made sure you knew you owed her something. She would drop comments at family dinners about how Vivian could have done better and how she hoped I would grow up so I could give her daughter the lifestyle she deserved. It was a normal Thursday. I got home after 12 hours on site dealing with subcontractors. I was exhausted. Vivian was out on a girls' night with her group at some overpriced bar downtown. At 10 in the evening, my phone vibrated. It was an unknown number. Hi, I'm Alyssa, Vivian's friend from the book club. Can we talk? It's important. Alyssa was the quiet type, an ER nurse who worked night shifts. She was not like Vivian's usual group, whose members seemed to think getting blackout drunk was a personality trait. I replied, sure. What's up? The phone rang immediately. That is never a good sign. Alyssa's voice was shaking. She apologized for bothering me and said she did not know how to say it. I told her to just say it. She took a deep breath. About a month ago, the group went out partying. Vivian got drunk and made out with some random guy at the bar. It was not a peck, it was an intense kiss. It involved tongues, hands, everything, and lasted for 10 minutes. Everyone saw it. I was sitting there feeling nothing, just ice water settling in my chest. I asked if she was sure. Alyssa confirmed everything. She had tried to pull Vivian away, but they told her to mind her own business and shoved her. Vivian's sister, Kendra, thought it was funny. They were all laughing in the Uber back, taking selfies. This was a month ago, 6 weeks before our wedding. Alyssa had almost called me a dozen times since then. She thought Vivian would tell me herself, but that night at the bar, Vivian was bragging about it. She said I had no clue and was too deep in to leave. She called me clueless. She said keeping secrets from me was easy, that I was a pathetic loser who believed everything she said. There it was. Not just the cheating, but the contempt. I asked her why she was telling me now. She hesitated. She said she would want someone to tell her, and that seeing Vivian treat me like that weeks before our wedding was not right. I deserved someone who respected me. I thanked her and told her it took guts. She asked what I was going to do. I told her I did not know yet. I hung up and stared at the wall. The dog came over and rested his head on my lap. Vivian arrived around midnight, smiling. I looked at her and saw a complete stranger. I told her, yeah, long day. I'm going to bed. I went to the bedroom, lay down, and stared at the ceiling for hours. I barely slept, just calculating. I would not confront her yet. Not until I had a plan. She had been hiding it for a month and bragging about how clueless I was. She would manipulate me, tell me half-truths, and cry to get her way. This time, I was going to play it smart, let her believe she had gotten away with it, and then burn her entire world down. The next morning, Vivian was still asleep, her makeup smeared on the pillow. I got dressed in silence, took the dog out for a walk, and went for coffee. I met with Alyssa at a coffee shop across town. She looked nervous. She sat down, and I told her to relax. I needed details. She told me everything. A muscle-bound guy from the gym approached Vivian on the dance floor, and they started dancing. Vivian got really into it. Their dancing was very suggestive and went on for 20 minutes. Then they went to the bar together for the kiss. They were leaning against the bar, and he said something to her. She laughed and touched his chest. Then they started kissing. It was intentional and lasted 10 minutes, maybe more. She liked it. I asked what happened next. Vivian came back as if nothing had happened. They left 30 minutes later. In the Uber, Kendra and Vivian were laughing. Alyssa asked if Vivian was going to tell me. Vivian looked at her like she was crazy and said they were just dancing and that I would act like a dramatic little girl if I called that cheating. She was already building the manipulative narrative. Alyssa told me Vivian had said she would tell me when she was ready. She had a month to tell me. Instead, she bragged. I asked Alyssa not to tell Vivian or anyone else that she had told me and to act normal. I needed time to handle this right. She promised to do so. I also asked her to let me know if she heard anything else. She said yes. I asked if anyone had recorded it. She said Tessa had taken a video on her phone of the dancing, the kissing, everything. I told her I needed that footage. She hesitated, saying Tessa might not want drama. I explained I was not going to post it or make a scene. I just needed proof in case Vivian tried to rewrite history. Alyssa agreed to get it. 2 hours later, my phone vibrated. It was the video file. I watched it once. Vivian's hands were on his chest, his were on her waist, and she was laughing mid-kiss. I saved 3 copies. 1 to a cloud backup, 1 to an external drive, and 1 to my friend Ethan's secure server. During the next week, I was the perfect fiancé, a performance worthy of an Oscar. I kissed Vivian every morning when saying goodbye. I texted her during the day, thinking of you, love. Can't wait to see you tonight. I watched television with her at night, my arm around her shoulders. She bought it all. Meanwhile, I was moving in absolute silence. I called my friend Gavin. We have been close friends since high school, and he has his own electrical business. He got divorced 2 years ago. I told him everything. The club, the kiss, Alyssa's call, Vivian's mockery. Gavin did not hesitate. He said to erase her from my life immediately, that same night. I told him not yet, that I was going to make her confess on her own in public and make sure everyone knew exactly who she was. Gavin said that was diabolical. He asked what the plan was. I told him I was putting it together, but might need to stay at his place. He said his doors were always open and told me to destroy her. I spent the next 3 days systematically dismantling our shared life. I called the bank and moved my direct deposit to a new account she did not know about. I changed passwords for my email, social media, streaming services, everything. I contacted the honeymoon resort and explained the situation. The manager was sympathetic but firm. There were no refunds. I asked if I could transfer the reservation to someone else. He said yes. I transferred it to Gavin as a wedding gift for being a true friend. Vivian had wanted that trip with all her might. Now my buddy was going to go with his new girlfriend. I started digging into her social calendar. Wine Wednesdays with the girls from the salon, Thursday girls' nights with her group of friends, brunch on Saturdays, and family dinners on Sundays where Deborah made passive-aggressive comments. I checked the tagged photos on her Instagram and discovered her friend Tessa had a birthday party that weekend. I texted Tessa casually, wishing her a happy birthday. I asked if it was okay if I came or if it was girls only. She replied fast, saying thanks and that it was co-ed and I was totally welcome. Then she mentioned Vivian had said maybe I would have to work. Interesting. Vivian had not mentioned the party to me. The night before the party, I set the trap. We were watching a reality show. I waited for a commercial. I told her I would not be able to go to Tessa's party tomorrow. She looked at me, surprised. I said there was an emergency at the site. A foundation inspection had been moved up to the last minute. I had to be there, or there would be serious delays. She pouted but said it was fine and that she would go alone. I told her to have fun and not to drink too much. I smiled naturally. She kissed my cheek and said she would behave. Tomorrow was about burning Vivian's world to the ground. But first, I had one more call to make. I called Ethan, my lawyer friend from college. I explained the whole situation, the cheating, the lies, the coming public confrontation. I asked what my rights were regarding the apartment. The lease was in both our names, but I had paid the rent alone for the last year while Vivian saved for the wedding. The lease was month to month, and the landlord was willing to issue a 30-day termination notice and release just me after she left. Ethan laughed. He said that legally, if she was not contributing, that would work cleanly. He could make it official so she could not claim anything undue. I told him to start the process. He said he would handle it. On Saturday afternoon, I was not at any site. I parked 3 blocks from Tessa's house. Alyssa texted me at 2 in the afternoon, saying I had to get there. Vivian was intoxicated and making a scene. I did not reply. I walked into Tessa's backyard, and the energy shifted. People noticed me. Vivian was busy, laughing too loudly, dancing alone with a drink in each hand. The party had a club vibe. Vivian had arrived in a super tight dress that left nothing to the imagination. She was completely drunk, stumbling and bumping into people. I stood there for 30 seconds, just watching. Finally, Vivian turned around and saw me. She went white and stammered my name. She asked what I was doing there, thinking I had to work. I walked over calmly and told her the inspection had been canceled. She grabbed my arm, forced a smile, and told me to grab a drink and relax. I asked her if that was the same thing she was doing at the club a month ago, just relaxing. Her face went from white to red. She laughed nervously and asked who told me. I said it did not matter. What mattered was that she had made out with some random guy a month ago, 6 weeks before our wedding. She kept it a secret for a month and then came here and got drunk again like it was nothing. I kept my voice steady, calm. That was what made it hit hard. I asked her when she had planned to tell me or if she was going to let me find out on our wedding day. Everyone was watching. The whole party went silent. She tried to pull me aside and whispered for us to talk at home. I did not move. I said right here was fine. She was already crying, insisting it was just a kiss and that it meant nothing. I asked if that made it acceptable. She said I was being dramatic, that it was a stupid mistake, and that I was acting like a dramatic little girl. And there it was, the same words she had used in the Uber. I pulled out my phone and asked if she wanted to see what a dramatic little girl looks like. I opened the video, turned the screen toward the people, and hit play. 10 seconds of Vivian grinding on the gym guy. Her hands on him. His hands on her. The kiss. Her laughing. Someone gasped. Tessa covered her mouth. Vivian lunged for my phone. I pulled it back. I asked if that looked innocent to anyone here. I told her she was right, that I was being dramatic, acting like a pathetic loser. No, was not that what you told your friends at the bar last week, that I was clueless, that I would never leave because I was too invested? Her eyes went huge. She started to deny it, but I cut her off. I said she had told them keeping secrets from me was easy, that she had laughed about it. Now she was a sea of tears, begging and saying my name over and over. I took the engagement ring out of my pocket and dropped it on the table. I told her to keep it, sell it, whatever. I said it was over. The wedding was canceled. She lunged forward, grabbed my shirt, and started screaming. She said I could not do this. Not here, not like this. I peeled her hands off me. I told her to pull herself together. She was completely hysterical by now, screaming that I was ruining her life, embarrassing her in front of everyone, that she had made a mistake and I was throwing away 5 years. People were recording, their phones everywhere. I told her she had embarrassed herself. I had just stopped pretending. Tessa's husband stepped in, pulled Vivian away gently, and told her she needed to leave. Vivian pushed him and started screaming at Tessa, asking if she knew, if everyone knew, if they were all laughing at her behind her back. Tessa said quietly that Vivian needed to go home. Vivian turned to me, mascara running down her face, and begged one more time. She said she would do anything. I told her there was nothing to do. It was over. I turned around and walked away. Alyssa caught up to me in the driveway. She said quietly that I deserved better. I agreed. I told her I was starting to realize that. That weekend, I stayed at Gavin's place and did not answer Vivian's calls. On Monday morning, Ethan had the papers ready. It was the official 30-day termination notice from the landlord, drafted with his help. The landlord was terminating the current month-to-month lease and would release me once she vacated. It was legal, clean, and left no room for drama. I took the day off work and went back to the apartment with Gavin and Ethan as witnesses. Vivian was home. It was her day off from the salon, and she was sitting on the couch in my hoodie, mascara stains on her face, scrolling on her phone. She looked up when I walked in. Her eyes were red and puffy. She started saying my name, but I held up my hand. I told her we had to talk. She stood up immediately and started apologizing. She said she was sorry she had messed up and would do anything to fix it. I interrupted her. I told her this was not about fixing anything. It was about moving on separately. I handed her the envelope. She took it like it was going to explode. She asked what it was. I told her to read it. She opened it and read the first few lines. Her face went pale. She looked at me and asked if I was serious. I said yes. It was the landlord's termination notice, 30 days. The month-to-month lease was ending. He would release me after she moved out. She lost control. She started screaming, calling me everything. She said I could not do this to her, that it was her home too, that the lease was in both our names. Ethan stepped forward, introduced himself, and said, "Actually, month-to-month leases can be terminated with proper notice. The landlord has legal standing, given that you have not contributed financially. You have 30 days to vacate or face formal eviction through the courts." Vivian looked at him like he had slapped her. Then she looked at me and asked if I had really brought a lawyer. I told her of course I did. I was not going to give her any room to say I had done something wrong. She started crying again. This time it was manipulative crying. She grabbed my arm and said we could fix it, that she would pay rent, get a second job, whatever I wanted. I pulled my arm back. I told her I did not want anything from her. I just wanted her to leave. She switched tactics and got furious. She said fine, she would leave, but she would take half of everything. The furniture, the television, the dishes, everything. Ethan cleared his throat and said she could take anything she had personally bought or brought into the relationship, but items bought with my money would stay. We had already documented everything. She could take her clothes, personal effects, and anything she could prove she had bought herself. Vivian's face went red. She asked if I was really going to be that petty. I told her petty was cheating on your fiancé and then bragging about it. These were just consequences. Then she noticed I was not wearing a ring. Her eyes went to my hand and then to hers. The engagement ring was still on her finger. She had put it back on after the party. I told her I needed the ring back. She looked at her hand and then at me. She said no. I told her it was not a request. That ring cost me $6,000. The engagement is over. It's mine. She twisted it on her finger and said it was stuck, that she could not get it off. Gavin laughed. How convenient, he said. Vivian glared at him. She started trying to take it off, making a big show of how hard it was. See? It's stuck, she said. She claimed she had tried yesterday and that it must be the swelling from crying so much. I told her to try soap. I went to the kitchen, grabbed dish soap, and came back. She refused to take it, saying her finger was sensitive and that if I forced it, I could hurt her. Ethan took out his phone and said that if she really could not get it off, we could go to the emergency room right now. They would cut it off safely. Otherwise, she was refusing to return property from a terminated engagement, and we could involve the police. Vivian's eyes went wide. She said it was not stolen, that I had given it to her. Ethan said, actually, engagement rings are conditional gifts, conditioned on the marriage. The engagement ended at the party. No marriage means the ring is returned. That is basic contract law. She looked between the three of us, realized she was cornered, grabbed the soap, lathered her finger, and twisted and pulled. The ring came off in 5 seconds. She handed it to me without looking at me. I put it in my pocket and told her she had 30 days. If she did not leave, a formal eviction would follow and would stay on her record. She stood there trembling. Then her face twisted into something ugly. She said I would regret everything, that she would make my life impossible, and that I had no idea what she was capable of. I looked her straight in the eyes. I told her to try it. Every threat, every action, every move would be documented and used against her. I had a lawyer now. I had witnesses. If she wanted a war, I would bury her. She took a step back, then another, and grabbed her purse from the couch. She said she was going to her parents' house, that she did not want to be there anyway, that the place smelled like betrayal. I told her to take her time. The clock started today, 30 days. She stormed out in a fury, slamming the door so hard the frame shook. Gavin let out a low whistle and said that went well. Then I grabbed my stuff, the dog, and my essentials. I told Ethan I would stay at Gavin's until the 30 days were up. I did not want Vivian trying to say I was harassing her or forcing her out. Her sister, Kendra, texted me, calling me exaggerated and saying it was just a kiss. She told me to grow up and stop being a dramatic asshole. I replied with the video, no text, just sent it. 30 seconds later, she replied, calling Vivian stupid but saying I was still overreacting. I told her maybe she should have raised her sister better instead of laughing in the Uber while Vivian cheated. Then I asked if she wanted to be the next person I requested a restraining order against. She stopped typing. I replied, tell your sister congrats on being single. Have fun enabling her nonsense. Oh, and she has 29 days to pack. Delete my number. Then I blocked her. By Wednesday, the story had spread like wildfire. Tessa wrote in the group chat, for everyone asking, yes, I told the truth. She said Vivian had made out with a random guy and had lied about it for a month, and that she felt terrible for me. Alyssa stepped in to support the facts. Vivian tried damage control. She posted some nonsense on Instagram about going through a hard time, making mistakes, and asking for privacy and understanding. The comments were brutal. People called her out for cheating weeks before the wedding, for lying for a month, for calling me clueless after the scene at the party. The comments destroyed her victim narrative piece by piece. She deleted it in less than an hour. Meanwhile, I moved into a new one-bedroom apartment across town. It was a better place with a better view. I started going to the gym every morning. Alyssa and I started texting more. It was nothing romantic, just friendly messages to check in. She asked how things were going. I told her about the new place, the dog, and my work. She shared ER stories. They were easy conversations with no pressure. 3 weeks into the 30 days, Vivian still had not moved out. Ethan said it was time to escalate. We filed the formal eviction request with the court. That was when she totally lost control. The 4th week arrived, and Vivian was not just ignoring the eviction. She was sabotaging the place. I stopped by the old apartment to pick up some tools I had left. I walked in, and the place was destroyed. There were holes punched in the walls. My clothes were shredded in the bedroom. Photos of us were torn and scattered everywhere. She had taken a hammer to the television I had bought and had smashed the coffee table. She had poured bleach on the couch. I took out my phone, took photos of everything, and called Ethan immediately. He said that was destruction of property, with thousands in damages. It had just gone from a civil eviction to possible criminal charges. I called the police, filed a report, showed them the photos, and told them she had legally received the eviction notice 3 weeks earlier and had retaliated by destroying my property. The officer took the report, said they would contact her, and asked if I wanted to press charges. I told him absolutely yes. The next day, Vivian called from a blocked number. I did not recognize it at first and answered, thinking it might be work. That was a big mistake. She was screaming before I could say hello, asking how I could have called the police. She said I was trying to ruin her life and that destroying her own apartment was not a crime. I corrected her, saying it was not her home anymore. The termination notice was in writing, and destroying my property was indeed a crime. She said she would tell everyone I was abusing her, that I had hid her for months, and that was why she was so scared to leave. She said she would press charges, and I would go to jail. There was ice in my veins. I told her to go ahead, try it. I had witnesses, I had documentation, and I had proof I had not been near that apartment in 3 weeks, except for one visit where Gavin was with me the whole time. If she wanted to file false accusations, she would end up in a cell. She started crying, a different kind of cry. She said she did not know what else to do, that she had nowhere to go, her parents were disappointed in her, and she had lost everything. I told her that was not my problem. She had made choices, and choices have consequences. She asked if I really hated her that much. I told her I did not hate her, I just did not care anymore. There is a big difference. She asked about the ring, saying she needed money and asked me to sell it back to her so she could pawn it. I laughed. I told her no way. The ring was mine, and I was keeping it. She called me an evil asshole and said karma would get me. I told her karma had already caught up with her. This was just the bill arriving. I hung up and blocked the number. But Vivian was not done escalating the situation. 2 days later, I got a call from my boss, Marcus. He asked me to come to his office. I sat down. He looked very uncomfortable. He asked if everything was okay at home. I said yes. What? He said he had received a call that morning. A woman claiming to be my wife said I was abusing her and our kids, that I beat them, that I was dangerous, and that the company needed to know what kind of person it employed. My blood ran cold. I told him I was not married and had no kids, and that it was my ex-fiancée. We had broken up a month ago. She had been served eviction papers and was facing criminal charges for destroying my property. Now she was making false accusations to my employer. Marcus looked relieved. He knew it sounded crazy. He had known me for 8 years and had never seen me lose my temper, but he had to ask as part of HR protocol. I asked if she had left her name. No, but she had called from a number he could forward to me. He sent it to my phone. I recognized it. It was Vivian's number. I told Marcus the whole story. The cheating, the breakup, the eviction, the property destruction, and now this. Marcus said that was insane and asked if I needed time off to handle it. I said no, I just needed to call my lawyer. I left his office and called Ethan immediately. I told him what had happened. Vivian had called my job and accused me of domestic violence, saying I had hit her and kids that did not exist. Ethan said that was defamation and harassment. We had to act now and get ahead of it before she tried to file real charges with the police. I asked what I should do. He said I needed a statement from my boss and to forward Vivian's number. Then we would file for a restraining order and press criminal charges for harassment and making false statements. Marcus gave me a written statement confirming the call and the accusations and stating that he knew they were false. It included the phone number, the time of the call, everything. Ethan drafted the paperwork for the restraining order that same day. He documented the property destruction, the threats, the attempts to contact me, and the false accusations to my employer, and he filed it the next day. The day after that, I was at a site when one of my guys said there was a woman outside screaming my name. I went out, and there she was next to my truck, looking unhinged, her hair a mess, her makeup running, wearing sweatpants and one of my old hoodies she must have kept. She screamed that we needed to talk and to come out now. I refused. Not until I stopped being a coward and faced her. My client came out looking confused and asked if everything was okay. Yes, sorry, she's leaving. Vivian screamed she was not leaving. Not until I talked to her like an adult. Not until I dropped the charges. Not until I stopped destroying her life. I told her, "You are suffering for your own choices, not mine. Leave before I call the police." "Do it," she said. "They'll see how you're harassing me, how you illegally kicked me out, how you're spreading lies about me." One of my guys already had his phone in his hand and asked if I wanted him to call. I nodded. Vivian's eyes went wide. She asked if I would really do that, if I would really have her arrested in front of all these people. I told her to test me. My client stepped forward and said he was calling site security and the police. This was private property, and she was trespassing. Vivian snapped her head toward him and started to argue, but he held up his hand. He said he did not care about her drama. She had 60 seconds to leave or be arrested. His site, his rules. She stood there for another minute and then started crying, a loud, dramatic cry. She asked if I was really doing this, if I really felt nothing for her, if 5 years meant nothing. I said 5 years had meant something once. She finally got in her car and peeled out, her tires screeching. She almost hit a parked truck on the way out. I called Ethan immediately. I told him Vivian had shown up at my site, made a scene, and threatened me, and that I had witnesses. Ethan said, "Perfect. That strengthens the restraining order case. She is escalating. The judge will see the pattern." The hearing was scheduled for the following week. The judge granted the restraining order without hesitation. It stipulated a minimum of 500 feet of distance from me, my home, and my workplace. Any violation meant immediate arrest. No warnings, no second chances. When Vivian was served the papers, I heard from Gavin that she had completely lost it at her parents' house. Apparently, she threw her phone across the room, screamed for an hour straight, and then locked herself in her childhood bedroom for 2 days. Deborah had to slide food under the door like she was feeding a wild animal. I did not care. She had made her bed with barbed wire and broken glass. Now she could sleep in it. The day after the restraining order was served, Vivian texted from her mother's phone. It was paragraph after paragraph, begging me to talk to her, to drop the charges, to give her another chance. She said she missed me, had changed, and needed closure. I took screenshots of every message and forwarded them to Ethan. He contacted the police immediately. She had violated the no-contact order within 24 hours of receiving it. The police showed up that same afternoon at Deborah's house, gave Vivian a formal warning, and explained that any further contact would result in her arrest. Deborah opened the door and, they said, got furious with the officers, screaming that I was weaponizing the system. They told her to calm down, or she would be fined too. That violation was added to the growing file Ethan was building. A week later, Deborah called me directly. She used the same sickly sweet voice, but it was already cracking at the edges. She wanted to talk about Vivian. Her little girl was not doing well. She was locked in her childhood room, depressed, not eating, and facing criminal charges. Deborah acknowledged that Vivian had messed up, but asked if maybe I could drop the charges for her mental health. I explained that I literally could not. The district attorney had already filed them. The state of Pennsylvania was prosecuting the case. That had left my hands a month ago. She asked if I could at least talk to her, to give her that closure everyone was crying about. I told her there was a court order preventing it, and even if there were not, I would not. There was a long silence. Deborah's tone changed. The sweetness evaporated. The claws came out. She said Vivian had really loved me, and that I was burning something genuine for a single slip-up. I told her if Vivian had loved me, she would not have cheated. She definitely would not have bragged to her friends about how clueless I was, and she certainly would not have tried to tank my career with false abuse allegations. There was another pause. Then Deborah asked if that had really happened, the call to my job. Yes. She told my boss I beat her and our non-existent children. It could have cost me my job, could have put me in jail on trumped-up charges. Deborah went quiet, then tried one last angle. She said Vivian must have learned this behavior somewhere, that maybe if I had been a better partner, she would not have strayed. I laughed and asked if she had just blamed me for Vivian's cheating. Deborah backpedaled, but the damage was done. Then she could not resist one last jab. She said she hoped I was happy, that I had publicly destroyed her daughter, that the family had lost thousands in deposits for the venue, catering, flowers, and photographer, all lost because I could not forgive a mistake. There was pure poison in her voice. I stayed glacially calm. Your daughter cheated, lied for 30 days, bragged about manipulating me, destroyed my property, harassed me repeatedly, stalked my workplace, and tried to blow up my career with false domestic violence accusations involving phantom children. That is not a mistake. It is a crime spree. As for those deposits, bill them to Vivian. She earned every consequence. Maybe if you had taught her that actions have repercussions instead of funding a princess fantasy, we would not be here. There was absolute silence. Then Deborah's voice turned icy. She said I would regret it, that karma was coming, that I was a pathetic, vindictive little man who had annihilated her daughter's life for nothing. Take care, Deborah. I hung up and permanently blocked her number. But karma was not done with Vivian yet. 3 days later, a detective from the DA's office called me. Based on the mountain of evidence, the property destruction, the false accusations to my employer, the continued harassment, and the restraining order violation, they were pressing formal charges. Vivian would be charged with destruction of property, criminal stalking, making false statements, and violating a protection order. She was arrested the next morning at her parents' house, handcuffed in the driveway of her childhood home while the neighbors watched. Ethan called me when it happened. The DA had filed the charges, and the police had gone for her. She was in county jail, with a bail hearing the next day. I asked what was next. He said she would probably get bail, then there would be court dates, and a trial if she refused to plea. With her lack of a prior record but our mountain of documentation, she was facing jail time, a minimum of 6 months, plus fines, plus civil damages if I wanted to pursue them. I told him I did not want her money. I just wanted her gone from my life. Ethan said this would take care of it. A criminal record, prison time, and legal fees that would financially ruin her. She would learn about consequences the hard way. Vivian made bail the next day. Deborah had put up her house as collateral, apparently taking out a second mortgage to cover it. Gavin called me that night and said he had heard Vivian had been arrested. I confirmed the criminal charges had finally dropped. False accusations, property destruction, criminal stalking, and a restraining order violation. Gavin said she had completely fallen apart. It was not my problem anymore. She had had every exit possible and had chosen to keep driving off cliffs. Gavin mentioned that Vivian was mass texting mutual friends, begging for help, trying to get someone to convince me to drop the charges. She had even tried to weaponize Tessa. It was not happening. She told my boss I beat her and kids that don't exist. That's scorched earth territory. She's facing exactly what she earned. Gavin agreed. She had dug this hole herself. Let her figure out how to get out of it. A few days later, Alyssa showed me her phone. She said I had to see something. Vivian had put her Instagram back on public and had vomited a massive text about how I had destroyed her life, how I had abandoned her when she needed me most. She claimed one mistake had caused me to overreact, and that she had lost her job, friends, and apartment, and was now facing criminal charges, all for one kiss. The comments completely destroyed her. People attacked her for the cheating, for destroying property, for lying for a month, for the harassment, for the workplace accusations, for violating the restraining order, and for the false reports. They told her to take responsibility, that it was embarrassing, to delete it and seek therapy, and to stop playing the victim after everything she had done. In less than an hour, the post was deleted. Then she deleted her entire account. Months later, I found out through mutual contacts that Vivian had taken a plea deal. She pleaded guilty to destruction of property, making false statements, and violating a protection order. She got 6 months in county jail, 2 years of probation after her release, a $5,000 fine, and mandatory therapy. Plus, the restraining order was extended for another 5 years. She had already moved back in with her parents full-time before the arrest. Now she was on her way to jail. She had no apartment and no friends, just her sister Kendra covering for her and her parents, who had finally seen their daughter's true character. I felt nothing. Total indifference. She was a stranger now, someone I once knew who had made catastrophic choices and had gotten exactly what she had asked for. A year after leaving Vivian, my life looked completely different. The new apartment was bigger, in a better location, and had a better view. The dog had a whole balcony to relax on. Work was going great. I had been promoted to senior project manager with a big raise. I went to the gym 5 days a week, lost 20 pounds, and went up 2 belt sizes in muscle. But the best change was Alyssa. We had been texting since the breakup. It had started with casual, friendly messages. How's work? How's the dog? Are you okay? It was nothing romantic, just two people who respected each other, communicating like adults. Then, one night, about 3 months after everything had happened, she asked if I wanted to get coffee just to catch up. No pressure. We kept talking. Comment. I believe one of the most powerful things we can do is choose to honor our self-respect, especially when it has been challenged. Setting firm boundaries is not about punishment. It is about protecting your peace and well-being. We cannot control the choices of others, but we can always control our response and our commitment to our values. Sometimes, true kindness shows up quietly through the people who see your worth when you might be struggling to see it yourself. Healing is not about forgetting the past, but about refusing to let it define your future. Walking away from chaos, even when it is hard, is a profound act of self-care. True strength lies in taking responsibility for the life you want to build, one brick at a time. Remember that you deserve relationships built on honesty and mutual respect. May you always have the courage to choose your peace and build a life you are proud of. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.